Well, it's been a couple weeks, but Hot Sauce Takes is back. If you don't know what Hot Sauce Takes is, where I take you, the viewer, your hottest takes, and just make my reaction in a video. On the weekends, normally like on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I make a community post where you can comment your hot sauce takes. There, I choose the 4 or 5 hot takes that I want to react to and tell you my thoughts in this video. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Now the first take we're going to be looking at comes to us from Breezy, and he says, the Philadelphia 76ers will go farther without Ben Simmons. The 76ers offseason has been filled with drama. The Ben Simmons situation was getting worse every day, sparking tension with Joel Embiid, Doc Rivers, and of course Ben Simmons. Daryl Morey, a couple weeks ago, stressed that he wanted to trade Ben Simmons, or didn't want to trade Ben, for role players, pursuing for an all-star player to maximize Embiid's prime. Now if you look at it just like on the surface, it seems pretty realistic, as Ben is still a really good player and you want to get some value. But if you think about it, how is Ben Simmons sitting on the bench and being toxic better than 2 quality players that can fix some of the big problems with this team? So far, they've been looking pretty good. Embiid has had more space. Tobias Harris is emerging as, or pretty much stepping up as a second option. Tyrese Maxey has been stepping up for Ben as an offensive threat. And for the take, I somewhat agree, as especially with the emergence of Maxey, but they're still missing that top defender and passer. But I still think that if they can't, it's better to get 2 good role players that can help their shooting, help their playmaking, than just keeping Ben and trying to get the all-star that you're never going to get. Ben is still a really good player. He was second in DPOI last year. He averaged over 8 assists last year. He was even an all-star last year. But I know his playoffs, everyone knows his playoffs was so bad, but the things that aren't on the box score, that's what Ben does, and without him, they really lack they really lack it. This team, unfortunately, was kind of built around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and when you're building around a player, and then that player suddenly goes away, you're gonna expect some holes that they're definitely going to have to make up, which, like I said, is the playmaking and defense. I still think the Sixers team is still a good team, but even without Ben, unless they make a big trade, I'm not sure if they're a title contender yet. The next take we're going to be looking at comes to us from OG Ananobi, and he says, Chris Duarte will end up top 3 in Rookie of the Year, carrying the Pacers to the 6th seed. The rise of Chris Duarte has been pretty marvelous to see. He was unknown in high school, but slowly but surely made his way as an elite 3-and-D player in college. Heading to this 2021 draft, he was seen at first as a late first-round pick, but once scouts realized his impressive frame and shooting, while also being perhaps the most NBA-ready player, the Pacers took him with the 13th pick. He impressed in Summer League, and his debut exploded for 27 points. Duarte is looking like the steal of the draft right now, having a higher ceiling than anticipated. Still, players like Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, and most likely Cade Cunningham are projected to have better years. I think that he's still gonna make an all-rookie team, but it's tough to say because this draft class has been looking so good. You have Jalen Green already putting up 30 points a game, or 30 points in a game. Scotty Barnes been so impressive on both ends. Evan Mobley looking like a defensive player of the year candidate, while also being pretty good on offense. I still think that Chris Duarte is a really good player, but I still think that the Pacers are always slept on. The Pacers are always just like that playoff team, but not good enough to be a championship contender. And maybe Chris Duarte can be the missing piece for this team. Currently, the Pacers are really struggling. I think they're 1-5, 1-6, which is definitely not a good sign. But I still think that Chris Duarte can be a really big part of their future. The next hot sauce take comes from Jahim, where he states, Russell Westbrook ruined the chances of the Lakers of winning the championship. Russ to the Lakers was seen as a very interesting fit, as even though he believed he can relieve Braun from carrying the pressure on the offensive end, he hurts their shooting and defense. Currently, the Lakers are 3-3, showing many promises and many flaws with this team. Russ always starts slow, having atrocious performances in his debuts, and especially with the Lakers, he wasn't looking that good. However, with LeBron James sitting out in 2 games, Russ stepped up, being more aggressive. Yes, he had double-digit turnovers in one of those games, but he still wasn't as much as a negative in his first couple games. Now, do I agree with this take? Somewhat. Russ has many positives and negatives. The Lakers' offense has improved a lot and has cranked up the pace, but their defense has plummeted to 25th, which is really bad. They're only allowing 5 more points than last year, but the defense in the whole NBA has pretty much improved. I still think that this Russ Lakers can fit and just needs time. Russ, there's pretty much the whole roster, I think like 12 players, is new on this roster, so you can't really expect all of them to gel immediately. And I think that's what there's 82 games for. That's for people like Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, Kent Bazemore, Malik Monk, Kendrick Nunn to all get accumulated in the offense, hopefully improve their defense because their defense has been really bad this year, and their offense, they've shown a lot more passing, they've been a lot more fluid over the last couple games, and especially with Russ being more aggressive, LeBron, of course, being LeBron James, Anthony Davis pretty much having a bounce back season, Carmelo popping off in a bunch of those games. I still really like this Lakers team. They still need to fix up some problems, but if they can fix it, the ceiling, I think that they still can compete for an NBA championship. And finally, the last take we're going to be looking at comes to us from Boldy, and he says, the Denver Nuggets are still a top 4 seed without Jamal Murray. The Nuggets were seen as title contenders for the last couple of years around the nucleus of Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. The Nuggets have evaluation of talent is pretty much the best of the NBA, allowing them to find so many steals in Jamal Murray being like the 7th pick, MPJ the 14th pick, Jokic a 2nd round pick, Campazzo not even drafted, Monte Morris a 2nd round pick, and that's why they've built up this team even though they're not the biggest market. Last year, Jamal Murray tore his ACL and is currently out till at least the All-Star break. In the playoffs, Murray's absence was felt after getting swept by the Phoenix Suns. Still, I really like this Nuggets team. They have the MVP of last year. MPJ can really break out as a 25-point per game scorer, and I still think MPJ can take the next step. They still have good defenders like Aaron Gordon. They have good players like Will Barton, Campazzo, Monte Morris, but without Murray, it's going to be tough to compete for a championship. Murray, as we saw in the bubble in 2019, he really steps up his game in the playoffs, and he was a big reason why they came back from 3-1 comeback. Now, hopefully, Murray can come back fully healthy. I still think he's a young player and can hopefully bounce back really well, like similar to Zach LaVine, where he technically got better after the ACL tear. But I still think that to win a chip, they definitely need Jamal Murray. Of course, you want MPJ to take the next step, hopefully improve their defense, just like get some internal development from maybe like Zeke Naji, Bones Highland, who they drafted recently. But still, this Nuggets team is really scary, and I just think that if Murray didn't get injured, I think they had a legit shot at the championship last year. But of course, the injury happened. But this team is still so young. They have Jokic, who's like 26 years old. They have Murray, who's like 24. MPJ, 22. And most of their young core is just so young, and some of them not even in their prime yet. So I still think that it's not the end of the world that Murray got injured, because they still have like 5 more years of dominance, especially if they lock up Jokic to a max deal. But still, I still think that they probably will end up as the 5th seed. But once they get Jamal Murray back, this Denver Nuggets team is going to be very scary. So that being said, that's going to be the new episode of Hot Sauce Takes. Be on the lookout for our next community post. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you all next time.